Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sabrina Dhami with your 13 Now update on this Friday, January 19th. And we start with big developments in the driveway shooting trial. The defendant, Kevin Monahan, took the stand today and testified in his own defense. My colleague Dan Levy was there inside court as Kevin Monahan spoke and described in detail, Dan, what he says happened that night. And Dan joins us live right now from the Washington County Courthouse. Dan, what really stood out to you from that testimony today?
What stood out was that Kevin Monahan said he never meant to kill anybody, and he still insists that firing the shotgun for the second time was an accident. He says he was wearing flip-flops, and he was out on his deck, and he tripped on a nail that was sticking up from the deck, and that's what caused the shotgun to go off. Let me just back up a little bit, Sabrina. The prosecution did rest their case the first thing this morning, and then after the defense attorney, Arthur Frost, called his first and only witness, Kevin Monahan, that's when the defense rested as well, but not before the dramatic and compelling testimony from the defendant. Again, he admits that he fired a warning shot, but he insists he never intended to fire a second shot. That is the shot that killed Kaylin Gillis, of course. Explaining how it happened, Monahan said he was wearing flip-flops, he tripped over the nails, and the gun just went off. He said he lost his balance, and that's when the gun went off. Asked by his defense attorney, Art Frost, did you pull the trigger? No, I did not, Monahan reiterated. And how do you know you never pulled the trigger? Well, Monahan said, well, because several years ago I broke my wrist and I cannot manipulate the gun that well. He said, I did not have my hand on the trigger. Well, Frost then asked him, what did you not do that night on April 15th? And Monahan replied, well, what I didn't do, I didn't mean to shoot the second shot. Underscoring the point, Frost asks, did you do it on purpose? And Monahan's emphatic response was no. And Frost continued, you know that second shot hurt Kaylin, right? Yeah. Well, how do you feel about that? That's when Monahan began choking back tears. He said, well, it's indescribable. I don't even know how to respond. I just feel like my soul is dead. There's just a hole in me. I took somebody else's life, and that's just horrible.
Those are powerful words, that very last piece there, Dan. The prosecution, of course, had the opportunity to cross-examine Kevin Monahan. So what, in their line of questioning, did any of Kevin Monahan's story, I guess, change at all, or did it change the feel for what he says happened that night?
Sabrina, I think it's safe to say that some of the words and some of his actions the night of the shooting came back to haunt him during that cross-examination, because Chris Morris, said, well, there was some mention that there were hunters around your house. Was that true? He said, well, no, I wasn't really being truthful. And then he was asked, well, when the undersheriff got to your house and he asked you what was happening up here this night, and you said, nothing as far as I'm concerned because I was sound asleep. And then Morris said, well, that was a lie, wasn't it? He said, yeah, I wasn't truthful. So that might come back to haunt him. I mean, obviously the jury heard it. And by the way, the jury will get this case Monday, closing arguments scheduled for next Monday morning.
I know, Dan, you've covered many trials over the years, and this was one where all week, and you've been there, at the courthouse, you've seen it firsthand, where we were wondering if this was going to happen, right? If Kevin Monahan was going to take the stand, if he was going to testify. Were you surprised, I guess, in your experience that this did happen today, that he did speak on the stand?
I think I can count on one hand how many times I've seen and heard and witnessed the defendant take the witness stand. Was I surprised? I wasn't really surprised. I don't know what else Art Frost had to put up there. He wanted to try to portray his client as a decent, honest, hardworking guy who felt that his house was under siege, and he wanted to get the point across that he was just trying to protect his wife Jinx, and that he even mentioned, he said, my main goal in life is to protect her. And I wanted to go outside because I wanted to be the target. I didn't want them to go near my wife.
And he was the only witness that the defense called, right? The first and only witness?
That's correct.
All right. And the jury, as you said, gets the case on Monday as testimony is officially done in the driveway shooting trial with Kevin
Sabrina,
Monahan.
I should also mention that a conference is about to begin down in the courtroom right now. They're going to talk about the possibility of giving the jury some other choices besides second-degree murder. Whether or not they reach that threshold and they convince the jury that this was a murder second degree, we don't know. We can't read the minds of the jurors. But I think the prosecution, the defense are going to get together, and maybe the jury will have some other on.
Okay, Dan, we lost you briefly for a second, but we did get, I think, the gist of what you were saying there, that the jury may be considering lesser charges in addition to second-degree murder in this case. Dan, thank you so much. I know it's been busy over there. We appreciate you taking some time and getting us up to speed on this really big development in the driveway shooting trial.
We'll see you at 4 o'clock.
All right, Dan, thank you. The other big story today is the cold, the bitter cold that is on the way. And Chief Meteorologist Paul Cayano joins us from the Weather Center right now. And Paul, you've been talking about this all week. Some of the coldest air of the season is moving in. Really, we're going to feel it more tomorrow.
Right, Sabrina. The system that's going to eventually open the door for this cold air to come in is coming through now in the form of some light snow showers and not a big storm for us, but a little dust in a few spots. But yeah, the cold will be the bigger story as we head into the next 24 hours. Here's a shot from Catskill. It's been snowing lightly pretty much for a good chunk of the morning, and you can see a little light dust on the sides of the roads, but the roads are fine. It's not coming down steadily enough for it to stick and cause travel problems. And let's face it, Catskill, Hudson, those are some of the communities that are farthest south in our area. And the farther south you go, the closer to the storm track. So let's say you got to go past these locations to get into some accumulating snow that would affect maybe the ride home. It is 26 degrees in Catskill, and we have a wind chill of 19. And we'll keep track of these temperatures as we go through time here. 24 in Albany, but the wind chill is 12. So you get the idea. North breeze adding to that chill. Slate gray overcast, flurries, a couple of snow showers, even in the greater capital district for the evening commute. And you can see it on the first morning live Doppler. Not a whole lot going on. You pick up those snow showers near Catskill, perhaps a steadier snow shower approaching Scotia, Schenectady, Glenville, out toward Amsterdam and Fonda. But I don't think this is going to last long enough to produce an impact on the commute. The bigger picture will show steadier snow, Philly, Atlantic City, up toward Trenton, maybe New York City for a time. But again, temperatures probably not going to support too much accumulation, even down to our south. So the wind chill forecast, this will be the big one. As we go through the next couple of days, you can see the wind chill drops down even more by sunset. Then into the overnight hours, we go down to and below zero. So waking up Saturday morning, the wind chill 0 to 10 below across the capital region. If you have plans early tomorrow, this will be the coldest air we've had all season when you factor in the wind. At its height, let's say peak temperature for the day, will get up to 0 or 1 above. You can see about 3 o'clock, 1. That's it. In Albany, greater capital district, generally around 0 all day long through about 6 or 8 o'clock. And wind chills will go below 0 again tomorrow night. So it's not exceptionally cold in terms of what we expect for this time of year. We are in the coldest time of the season. So we expect these readings. We just haven't had them in a while. 9 tonight, 17 tomorrow, wind chills at or below 0 through Saturday. 7-day planner shows an upward swing Sunday, Monday, back into the 20s, then 30s. The next interesting system heads our way late Tuesday into Wednesday. If this thing comes through overnight Tuesday night, it could be cold enough. So we have a few inches of snow on the ground for Wednesday morning. Very early look at this. It's been changing on the computer models, but it does look like temperatures for a time will be above freezing there, Sabrina, especially on Wednesday. So we could be looking at a slushy couple of inches that melt off, maybe some rain on Wednesday afternoon. I think this system's going to come through in 2 parts. So right now, everything's kind of clogged together. And until we can separate those parts and determine what's going to come through when, we'll certainly be able to fine tune and focus this forecast. But right now, it looks a little sloppy midweek next week.
The 17 on the 7-day forecast for tomorrow, Paul, is a little deceiving because, as you described, the wind is going to make it feel a lot colder than that. So 17 is kind of wishful thinking, I guess, when we see it that way.
Yeah, it's not going to feel that way. And another note, when you talk about 17, when the temperatures are that cold, it doesn't even take a lot of wind to get it down to 0, 5, 10, 15 mile per hour winds, drop it right to 0. So the wind chill has sort of an exponential feel to it. So when we get colder, the wind chills get lower more quickly.
Yeah, and as we've talked about before, this kind of falls into that category of dangerous cold a little bit when it gets that low, obviously, for our pets, for our older neighbors, to just kind of be mindful of that.
Yeah, good point. And you don't, your pet's got to go outside, but if you typically leave them out a couple hours and let them hang out outdoors and sniff around and whatnot, probably not a good idea tomorrow. They get the wind chill also, so you want to just pay closer attention and make sure they're not out there too long.
Yeah, please. Yeah. Okay. Paul, thank you so much. We'll see you live at 4.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that is your 13 Now update on this busy Friday. As you can see, we'll have the latest from the driveway shooting trial, more details of Kevin Monahan testifying, taking the stand in his own defense. Mark Mulholland is at the Washington County Courthouse in addition to Dan Levy, so we'll hear from both of them, and our legal expert, attorney Paul Daraneshian, will join them as well at the Washington County Courthouse. And of course, Paul will have the latest forecast. I'm Sabrina Dhami. We'll see you on News Channel 13, starting live at 4.